Welcome into my smithy. Getting things all started up here this morning. See if I can get it to, yeah, there we go. Now I'm taking center stage. And if you've not been here before, welcome in. If you've been here before, welcome back. It's been a couple of weeks that I haven't been doing this due to travel for work. So I'm really excited to be back out here again and share my hobby here with y'all. As you can see, I've got the fire good and going, and I've already got a piece of metal in it and warming up so I can make a quick leaf. Hopefully it's quick. Cut off the last attempt that failed due to burning it right off the stem. Learning how to make coal my preferred fuel source, but not burn things up while I'm at it. Things get hot really fast with coal. So, beautiful day here in Kent, Washington. My last week was spent in Dublin, Ireland, hanging out with a great group of people that I work with, learning more about them, more about the company I'm working for, and where we're going. It was a really exciting week, but I'm happy to be back home now, taking care of my chickens and my turkeys and goat and donkey and dogs and people, and been able to share my hobby with you guys. So, the way I cut this off already begins to create the leaf formies. You'll see here, I've got in both directions, I've got so I really don't have to do anything there. There's not even any cleanup work to do there. It's already got the shape I want for the end of my leaf. So next I can just set it down. We'll come over here to the near side so I don't end up creating a cold shut so easily. Near side. Far side, I should say. Set that down. Back in the fire. It was beautiful, Jay. I didn't want to come home for any other reason than that's where family is. I wanted to spend some more time there, but because Christina couldn't be there with me, it really wasn't going to work for me to stay. Next time she has to come with, that's for sure. Let me know if I'm blowing your ears off. I'm going into the yellow on my meter here. Let's go ahead and get that into a stem shape. Use the rounding side of my hammer to expedite that. Get pretty close. Small stuff cools off fast, but it also, I'm learned, heats up really fast. So let's not burn it off this time. Got to go to the the Guinness Storehouse there in Dublin. I spent so much time actually being interested in the brewing process and history, and even some of the blacksmithing stuff for the coopers, the barrel makers, that I lost track of time and didn't get to enjoy the pints I was given or go to the shop. Not complaining. I definitely enjoyed that opportunity. getting close. Let's go ahead and smooth it out. There's going to be a little leaf this time, but it actually is going to be a really nice shape of a leaf. Pun intended. I'll take Guinness about any way it's served. It's interesting. Everybody was telling me that Guinness tastes different there. I can knock it down just a little bit here, and there we go. It's probably when I'm striking the anvil that the static part happens. Let's try that. There we go. Mr. Tatum, it has been forever. Yeah, I'm also on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, both Twitter accounts, whether you want to follow my political bent or just my professional stuff. I decided I would stream everywhere. What the hell, why not? I use Restream.io, so it makes that effortless. Oh good, I didn't burn it off this time. Let's go ahead and finish this up. Yeah, my brother will only watch, one of my brothers will only watch from Twitch. He won't use the other services, so I figured it was nothing for me to go ahead and make that possible, so I did it. That's plenty long enough for a ring. Now just round it up. Well, have you been up here to Seattle? Because I don't know if I agree with that, but I do agree that there's a lot of brown here in the States compared to Ireland. It was really funny. I went, when I landed in Ireland, everything was foggy, no big surprise, on the tarmac. And then, you know, as I'm taking my taxi cab ride and seeing everything for the first time, it was like I felt I'd gone through the Twilight Zone, you know, found my way into the Twilight Zone, because so much seems so familiar and yet at the same time so different. And as far as finding me, it's not too difficult. I'm pretty much Jack Pines everywhere you look. So with the exception that on Facebook, I'm actually Jack Pines Blacksmithing. Oh, really? Well, you definitely need to come out here and trailer the bike. Take off these corners. It's gotten so small it wants to twist on me as I'm giving it some roundness to it, but that's not going to be a big problem. All right. As I said, as it gets smaller, cools off faster. Thanks, James. Yeah, I mean, it took me a few sessions to figure out what I wanted to actually put on the screen and where to put it. Biggest challenge I've had is honestly cameras that are appropriate for the use. You can see the Fire Cam, for example, is a cheap, supposedly 4K webcam that the Mac doesn't like to use in 4K anyway. So, if anybody who's a student as a smith is watching, you're going to see that I didn't like the bulge in the middle of my stem. I turned over to the rounding side of the hammer, and I'm spreading it across so that's actually longer now, but more in line with the shape and width of the dimensions of the rest of the stem. There we go. Now that looks more like a stem. I like it. Let's see if we can get just the leaf, just the tip warm enough to give it a nice squish and not burn it off. I never really thought of the Twilight Zone as scary, just engaging for me, but I get it. You are a lot younger than me. I guess as time goes on, a lot becomes all relative, right? All right, didn't burn it off. I'm being extra cautious this time if you haven't been able to tell from watching previous live streams. This is a dainty little leaf this time. It's cute. Interesting thing about working with coal, for those who haven't seen me working with coal yet, I had been working with charcoal. And with charcoal, you don't give it air. It'll all just burn up over time. You probably had that experience working in a barbecue pit or fire pit. You can't leave it unattended because it'll all just burn up. Train! All right, let's see if we can get just the right spot. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and grab my cold chisel here. See if I can do this. I want to put some shape in my leaf here. Some veins. All right. Do it old school. Not the prettiest. I got a double strike in there at one point, but it'll do. Now let's see if I can get the penny scroll with the base. Breaking out, yeah. Okay. I don't remember that one, to be honest, but I believe you. Thinking about it now, it's quite the pun. If you're looking at the fire, you're going to see a big old lump of coal right here. It's not coal, it's coke. And the lump is, after all the coal cooks into coke, it becomes sticky and like popcorn. And so that's what that was. That's the stuff I actually burn. And it's my job to tend it, break it apart, make sure all the coal actually did get cooked. And then it becomes my fuel going forward. But what I was saying is, now the train's not here, with this, if I don't continue to add air to the system, it'll literally go out, which is great because I just come back the next week, push the coke out of the way, start a tiny little charcoal fire in there, pull the coke back on top, add air, and it just is back to business, and I haven't lost all my fuel. All right, good. Let's grab this. Let's see if I can make this do what I want. It may not be thin enough, to be honest. Oh, actually, it's working. I think I want to push it back down inside, though. Let's do that. There we go. We'll continue heating that up and snap it off. Now there should be no chance that it'll actually burn the leaf off because the leaf is sticking up out of the fire practically now. Yeah, I figure all of the ways that I stream is more for discoverability, and then people can go to where it is they like to see me best. I doubt Twitter and LinkedIn are people's preferred way to watch streaming content. I know every time I see somebody go live on LinkedIn, I basically ignore it. But that's just me. I've also learned that I'm not always going to be a typical okay, that is definitely not going the way I want it to, which means I didn't make it thin enough at the end. So let's get that done. There we go. I end up having to cut some of that off later, but that's fine. Let's cool it off. Because the first rule of blacksmithing is all metal is hot, and frankly, I don't want to forget and accidentally touch a piece of hot metal at some point here. So, how do I want to deal with that little thing? kind of neat looking, but it's not quite the organic nub that I was hoping for. You know, I may just leave it that way. Rasp it off here in a little bit. Let's finish it up. And to finish it, all that really means is spin it around into a thing that'll hang on the keychain. Let's see if I can not lose the leaf there. Yeah, so I don't know why, but I have my LinkedIn notifications turned on. I really need to just turn them off because I really never care about seeing the content off LinkedIn in real time. And so I always see the notifications. There we go. I think that's the fastest I've gotten one of these done. 20 minutes. I think that has been one of my goals all this time. Although I think I just realized I twisted it in the wrong direction. Let's get it in the direction I actually want. Easy to fix. Best if I heat it up again first, though. Thanks, Jay. There we go. And then just because it's not going to want to curve until I heat up the right area for that. Let's get that working. So Jay, I figured out what I'm going to have to do. Being on travel this last couple of weeks has made it so I couldn't get it done, but I'm going to go ahead and buy myself a torch kit, including a gas saver for the propane. After which time I'm just going to not try to do it in the forge, but instead get Mom's shepherd's hook done. There we go, that's much better. All right. Get it done using an external propane torch instead of trying to do it inside of a forge. It's just a big piece of work, and every smith I've ever seen that does big work, that's what they end up doing is using a torch. So I guess it's time for me to start moving in that direction regarding my skills. My understanding is the kit shouldn't be too expensive. I paid for the expensive part, which are the tanks I have out there. Hey Sebastian, welcome to the channel. Thanks for jumping on. There we go. There we have a little keychain bobble. That is what I would consider done. I'm going to go ahead and put away some of the tools that I don't need now. Do a little removal of some forge scale. At this scale, it doesn't work very well to do that using my butcher block brush, which is made of spring steel and is great on bigger stuff. On the little tiny stuff, it's not so great. So I'm going to go ahead and mute you guys for a second, because otherwise you might be deafened by the silly whine of the motor. Okay, so first off, gloves. I do believe in gloves when I'm going to put my hands anywhere near harm. But when it comes to something that your glove could get tangled in, I'm going to avoid it. And typically where I wear a glove is anytime I'm having to deal with getting my hand near the heat. With the pair of tongs, I'm not worried about getting my hand near the heat. And when working with a piece of steel, there's a very good reason why I don't remove the tag on the back of the piece of steel. It's a very quick indicator that things are getting too warm to be holding there. So as I said, first rule of blacksmithing, all metal's hot. As far as eye protection, I always get the polycarbonate lenses. I do think I want to get a pair with the side shields on here though. So there's that. As far as forgetting, Jason, it's a very valid point, but the problem I've seen too often is forgetting you're dealing with a hot piece of metal with the gloves on, and the next thing you know, your gloves are smoking. Even more problematic is if you get the gloves even a little bit wet and suddenly that happens, and now you're steaming your hands because there's nothing that protects your hands from the heat from the water, only from the direct heat. So it has pluses and minuses. You just the question is knowing whether or not you know when the best time to take those precautions are. For example, I like to wear. There are people who would really hate what I do, but I like to wear leather gloves when I'm working at a grinder, and I also like to wear a face shield of some sort because sparks, coming off there. Most of the sparks are going down if I do this in the right, do it the right way. So I still need to wear the apron. Gonna get over here. So I still end up having to wear the apron. But this is the case of recognizing that this hobby has risks and assessing your acceptable risk level. I do not believe that there is a one-size-fits-all rule to this hobby regarding PPE. I do believe that people should definitely look at PPE and then weigh their risks and take appropriate precautions. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, Christina wouldn't be happy if I burnt my beard off. It's interesting, the sheer number of Smiths I've seen out there with beards, and I do suspect it would be possible if I weren't being very, you know, hands away from my face. If you're down here at the process, well, you're probably doing it wrong to begin with, and you're probably giving yourself some really serious back problems. So. There's the finished leaf. I'm just going to set it aside for now. And I really need to return to the making of my flat jaw tongs. I have one half of that done here. Pretty close to done. I think there's a little bit of work I want to do in the width here. So I'm going to do that, I think, right now while I'm thinking about it. I could grind that away because it's actually all a good shape at this point already, so I'm not sure. It's also a good length, as you can see. So there's a part of me that says leave it alone and grind it consistent instead of forging it, because forging it's going to make the material, move the material in length or width. Okay. If I were going to do it, I really wouldn't want it longer, I don't think. It's already a good length. I'm going to leave it alone for now. I'm going to work on the other one. But before I can work on another one, I again need to start again with the railroad spike. Why? Because I was very bad about with this railroad spike leaving it in the fire while gabbing and ended up burning the nib itself. So this is garbage at this point. You can see other things got eaten away in the process. That would have, because there's plenty of mass there still, that I probably could have worked out. But the nib, yeah, it's shot. So we're going to call that one not useful anymore. Let's see if I still have a fire. I do. Good. Pull some coke forward. Pull some coal forward so I can start cooking. The cooking process, you'll see, ends up causing a lot more smoke than when it's just getting started. It'll also start billowing yellow smoke, as a lot of coal has sulfur in it. I have made a couple pairs of tongs. I can show you. They start getting better and better as I've made them. Like this one came from a set of blanks that was made for me, and I just had to do the work to finish the tongs. This one came from a couple of railroad spikes. I wanted to have this business here. It's called a bolt jaw tong because it's meant to be able to go around a bolt or a rivet head, but it also allows you to work with oddly shaped things. And then I made this set of tongs. You can see that there's a problem as to why I'm not using that set anymore. And that's the one I'm basically replacing now. I've also made my own punches, my own drifts. As an apprentice, your job is obviously assist the master, master smith, but it's also to make your set of tools. I'm sorry, that you are taking into service as you begin your journeyman, which is to go from master to master, assisting in the shop. And so I'm basically working through the same process myself, except that my masters are principally YouTubers out there, books, And then, you know, when I get a chance to work alongside someone, I take that opportunity. Like my initial learnings came from my dear friends back in Florida who were doing Renaissance period blacksmithing for their Ren reenactment group and then business. So, all right, the fire is ready for me to throw this in. I think the first thing I'm going to do though is, because then I can use these tongs. These tongs I just showed you that came from blanks are meant specifically for holding on to railroad spikes. So we'll go ahead and put that there. Get my tool rest back up off the ground. There we go. We'll turn the fire. Actually, we'll use this opportunity to turn the fire. See the big lumps that need to be broken up. Probably got too deep in there. There we go. I have a very short fire here right now because when working especially with the leaf, I really don't want to accidentally burn it off, which I've done too many times by having heat that can travel the whole piece. I want to be able to be very focused to where I'm working. In this this long forge here, this is not a traditional coal forge. Any person who's blacksmithed a while that comes to my channel and sees this has got to be questioning my sanity or something, because this one is a little different in that I don't always have just one little area I can smith in. I can actually smith the whole length of this forge when need be. Something that is more typical of why you see people using propane forges because of the same thing. Popstar. Popstar. Nice to see you here. Yes, YouTube. I mean, I started in software before the internet had caught on, and I was one of those idealistic folks who thought that the internet would change the world, and I don't think I was wrong. And in this regard, I was absolutely right. It is incredible the wealth of knowledge that's out there, actual real knowledge, useful knowledge, and YouTube is way more than, I think it was a dating app when it first started. It's way more than that today. It is a wealth of knowledge, wealth of knowledge. So do I know you, Pupsar, or are you somebody that just happened to come across my channel? And if the latter, welcome. I always am thrilled to have a new viewer, especially from Twitch, because I don't see too many folks that stop in on Twitch. As I like to say, typically towards the end of my channel, everybody here is welcome. Anybody who wants to stop in and just gather around my fire is welcome to be around it. And just enjoy the company of people who like to make things, people who appreciate the process of making things, or people who actually want to know, can they actually do this? And my answer is a very strong yes, you can. Absolutely. Come on. All right, it's warming up. But my turn in the fire has basically said, made the fire pixies a little lackadaisical here. That won't be a problem for much longer. I'm actually going to change the position of the camera because I'm not going to use the anvil for this next part. I personally prefer to use, let's see if you can see it, use my vise for this kind of thing. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'll bring that back here in a minute. Oh, very cool. Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. All right. Get it nice. Hold it nice and tight. Let's see if I can actually. I was trying to do it with my left hand, and I'm not left-handed. There goes my twisting wrench. I'll go fetching soon. That worked great. Let's bring her back over here to the anvil and work on the other dimensionality real quick. All right. There's that. Time to play fetch. Well, that water's a little chilly, but not bad. Our highs here are in the low 60s and our lows in the low 40s right now, so I don't know where that's at in this, but not too bad. Thank you. Yeah, post leg vise was introduced to me by the Blacksmith folks, and it's a tremendous tool. You can smith on other vices. Obviously, you know, the mechanical vice, mechanics vice, I should say, especially a nice heavy one, can do the trick, but having that leg so that it becomes firmed by the ground it's actually pushed into really makes a big difference. All right. Here we go. There it is. And then there were a lot of different ways it could be mounted. It's been a while since I remember how he did it, but I think he had it strapped to something extremely heavy that he could then unstrap because we were a mobile unit for doing demos at Ren fairs and the like. With them, I typically was hanging out with them at the Scottish Highland Games in just up the road from where I lived. And I knew I wanted something also kind of portable, but more staid than what we had there. And I happened to be at another Highland game, where I saw that a smith working there with coal had set himself up with this barrel idea, and it works great. Let's see if I've got, yeah, that'll do. All right. try to localize what I'm striking here. Of course, I shouldn't have put it back up there like that. Let me put. Just fighting what I was doing here. I'm gonna have to adjust these tongs. They don't close up anymore to where I want them. And that's the nice thing about making your own tools, is you constantly adjust them to where they suit your need. Let's see if I can just hang this on my nice little hook I made here. Might or might not work. We'll see. I have a feeling it's just going to tip over and fall right over here. Make a new hook for that specifically. Hey, Trail Dust. Thanks for stopping by. Did you miss me the last couple of weeks? Hanging out with a bunch of great folks for work. Enjoying some Guinness pints there in Dublin, Ireland. Now I'm back home and don't have any anticipation to be traveling again anytime soon. So this should remain on a normal schedule. Yeah, I mean, it was very handy because obviously I need the quench tank anyway. So the water I needed some place for that. And it lends the right amount of weight, plus it's water. I can siphon it out and, you know, to the rest of the acreage somewhere, not inconvenient. And then it's I can move the barrel. Also, obviously, it's bolted to it, so I can unbolt it from that setup. It took a modicum of, but not a high skill set of welding skills and some angle iron. It was really a pretty easy bit of work. A little bit of grinding on some 1/4-inch flat to handle the bead at the bottom, so I could weld it a foot on there on the bottom. Let's see if I can point you at it so you can see the foot. Let's go there, and then don't tighten it, loosen it. There we go. As I bring it down, you'll see there's a plate there with a bit of black pipe for the foot of the leg vise to seat into, socket like, and that's all there is to it. Some of my favorite stuff is when I just get to think about a problem and solve it with whatever materials I can come up with to work the problem with. That's part of the fun of being a maker. But I highly recommend anybody who's just getting started in kind of making things, don't worry about having the right tools or anything like that. Just make a commitment that you're going to do something about it. And then feel free to message me and I'll tell you the next steps. Typically start with a box of play sand. Regular backyard dirt will work too if that's what you got the resources for. And then an old hair dryer that you turn off the heating element to. You don't need that heating element. And a pipe. And you're well on your way to doing some blacksmithing. Yeah, I gotta adjust these tongs because that is the second opportunity for somebody to have a beverage of their choice now in this stream. And I have to work on this fire because I'm not getting the airflow I want. There we go. I bet you there was a lump of coal blocking my port. Or a clinker. It's not impossible that there was a clinker. A clinker is a part of the coal that gets cooked out, or maybe a piece of your metal that burned off that ends up making a lump. It's not going to burn, it's going to soak up heat, and it's just going to get in your way. But before I go any further, because I'm having too much trouble holding these tongs, I'm going to go ahead and, I'm not tongs, but spikes. I'm going to go ahead and get a hold of it where I can lift it, set it out of the way for the moment, and come back to it after I adjust the tongs. So, well, happy belated birthday. Now we're getting great airflow. You can see it in the fire cam. Pull some more coal forward so it can start cooking. That's another thing I have to give to coal. I've got what looks like it could be a year's worth of coal sitting here. I need so little of it. Use my dipping scoop for a coal scoop. Put it in the back there. There we go. I actually didn't drop any. Oh yeah, no, you're right. I probably dropped way too much is what you're saying. Got it. All right, let's get this back over here. Get this, yep, that's where it's supposed to be. Get the angle on this thing where it needs to be. There we go. This is where I feel I need like at least 2 more cameras. And then I think I'm going to end up getting one of the Elgato Stream Decks so I can make it easy to just switch between scenes set up for the purpose. Oh, high gravity day. Wow, poor guy, gal, I don't know. Oh, you said he, so it was a guy, okay. All right, let's see if I melted off my tongs. I did not, and I got the right parts warm, so let's see. There we go. Hold the right part of the tongs. That looks good. Let's see if it fits the way I think it should. Yes, that's much better. Let's quench that so it holds it in place. Now, tongs, and in case folks are ever wondering, quenching metal is a tricky proposition, as there's a chance you'll actually cause stress fractures and so forth. But tongs are typically made of mild steel, which doesn't harden, and so therefore has a less likelihood to cause stress fractures and so forth. These were made out of railroad spikes, and even railroad spikes that claim to be high carbon aren't really high carbon. So anybody who's selling you high carbon railroad spike, what's it called, knives, they either need to mark them as novelty, or they need to be more honest about it, because it's likely not to hold an edge long term. All right. I was looking at trying to figure out how to do it with my iPad, but OBS Studio didn't want. I've been having trouble with this, with OBS Studio wanting to play nice with plugins, because yeah, I have the iPad I could have done it with, but as soon as I added the plugin that I had found for doing so, OBS just started behaving badly. At the same time, I was also using an Elgato piece of software for using my iPhone as a video source, and while it looked fantastic, anybody who watched my streams over the last couple of weeks know that I slowly developed a delay in that feed through the course of any live stream, so I stopped using that. It could have been the source of the problem for all I know. So I may try it again with the iPad before I actually buy the device. Because yeah, having the fast transitions, so I'm not having to rearrange cameras and so forth, is just, if anything, it might look nice for all of you, but it actually, beyond that, also is less of a headache for me if I've just got a thing I do the setup ahead of time and not have to keep futzing with it. I can do more smithing and less videography. Videography? Yeah, whatever it is. Videography. It's got to be what it is. Something I want to play with in the next week or so is YouTube notified me that they have a new feature that allows you to pull out snippets from your live stream and post them as separate content. So, like a highlights reel. taking longer to heat this time than I was expecting, but I'm starting to see the right colors. I have a feeling I let my fire get too cold while I was doing all the other things I needed to do. But yeah, that's good now. Those are some coals you do not want to walk on. Oh yeah, look at the heat now getting into everything. All right, we're good. A little bit too much heat now as far as the length of my material. All right. Do a few more rounds over here. Slosh a little water around, but that's good. All right, I think the rest I'm gonna have to do over here, which means switch the other tongs so I can actually strike it from like a nail, but I think I might use it this way anyway and bring it over and then do that. There we go. Good. Grab it from here. They always tell you about the hammer control you're going to need for this hobby, but they never tell you about the tong control. A lot of manipulating tongs involved. All right, that's getting close. Obviously, tongs are typically going to be on the offhand, so it makes it an even more fun challenge. All right. Looking at that, I don't think I need to worry about it too much more, considering I think it's going to be the end that'll actually be my nib. So I'm going to switch it around, put the other end in the fire. And I recognize that forging in a railroad spike is not riveting content, but one of the things to note is beginner smith often struggle with, where am I going to get the materials I need? And an answer is you can go and order a whole slew of railroad tongs from eBay for practically nothing. Now, where they source their, not railroad tongs, railroad spikes, where they source their spikes from, I don't know. I will tell you, it is illegal in the United States to traverse the rails and pick up any spikes that are laying along the rails. So don't do that. But I ended up getting a big box of, I think, 75 of these things for 50 bucks. And so, no problem at that point then, trying to decide where I'm going to get my material from. I also live just up the street from a scrap yard, so I could always go up to the scrap yard and pull something off of vehicles there that don't cost all that much. Like existing leaf springs and so forth, there's not much they can do with it except sell it to actual steel foundries for turning back into new steel. But I go in there, little sweat equity, I'm pulling off leaf springs, coil springs, whatever, and I'm good to go for now making something that's a tool steel, whether that be a knife, something I'm not all that interested in, or a punch, a drift, cutting chisels. Yeah, 400 pairs of tongs, so you just have the perfect. Well, the key there is you don't put the steel in the fire until you've got the right one. Because I have now burnt too many things. I'm just leaving them sitting on top of the forge here as reminders of the need to pay attention to what's going on in the fire. Doing it the wrong way. This is the right way. There we go. Let's get that fire nice and hot again. As I was saying earlier in the stream, with coal, if you walk away from the fire, it just goes out. So one of the new skill sets I had to work on is don't let the fire go out. You see a lot of smiths who have, they don't have such primitive forges as I do. They'll have a blower constantly blowing this high speed versus low speed. They go through a lot more fuel than I do, though, I can tell you that. I don't have a solution. I have all I have then is problems. So, you know. One of the most profound things I ever learned is if you're an employee who's always bitching at work, you'll get a lot farther if you don't just approach somebody with your bitches, but also come to them with your solutions. So something you're seeing me do, which is probably blowing some people's mind, my brother perhaps, is picking up coal that was just in the fire and moving it back in the fire. I wouldn't touch the piece of metal that's sticking out there, but the coal, like I said, if it isn't currently on fire, it's not really going to keep any heat going. Oh, nice. You know, I am tempted to go ahead and get an electric blower set up here and run it off of the EcoFlow, which is how I have all of this stuff working out here. Right now it's running with solar panels charging it up, which is good because when I started the stream, as it's been a couple of weeks, it had 9% left juice in the battery. I mean 11%, and now it's down to 9. It would have been much lower if it hadn't been the solar. But I could always run, I've got a blower actually that I want to try and adapt to the project and see how it'll do. Oh yeah, okay. So you saw sparkles, you still see sparkles. What that means is that the metal is just about cooking off. In this case, in this one case, I'm actually not disappointed about that, because forging in will create stress risers along the way. And if you can get it to forge welding temperature, which is right where you're at when that happens, you can actually avoid the stress risers. So at this point, it's too cold to be forge welding. Still plenty hot enough to actually forge, but too cold to be forge welding. And my goal right now is to avoid fish lipping. Fish lipping is what happens as the edges fold over faster than the middles. So you can see I can start pushing that back. I need to get up to forge welding temperature again. Let me put on some flux so that the cheeks on this I'll bring it over here so you can see it. Flux is, in my case, is just borax or 20 mule team. And as you can see, my goal is to get it to melt down into the area that's folding over so that it basically squirts out. And this is one of those times where I am going to go and grab a glove. But gloves make it hard to hold on to a hammer, so I don't do that often. And you can see I just used the tiniest little spoon that I made myself for it. It doesn't take a lot. It's also not, it's not expensive, so you can get to use a lot, but it doesn't take a lot. So that little spoon is more than sufficient for accomplishing a good number of forge welding needs. And it seems like there's a lot on there, but it's all dust and ends up kind of expanding as it gets heated. Now let's see if I can get this in there. There we go. Hello, wife. You misspelled grandpa? Oh, look at that, you did. I wouldn't have noticed. I knew what you're going for. Besides, who's going to call people out on spell check on a chat stream? Now, we might have to have conversation if you can't tell the different yours you're supposed to use, but I'm just kidding. Today, somebody had asked me to actually show this. Let me bring it back over here. It's definitely cooled off by now. I made, as I do every live stream, I made a little bauble for on your keychain. Little organic looking leaf. Haven't decided if I want to keep this little blob that I ended up with on there. I may end up trimming that off. So there's the leaf. And then I started the first half of a pair of tongs, some flat jaw tongs that I need, because you get down to working with tiny stuff like this, occasionally it's hard to hold on to with something like this. So get some flat jaw tongs going. So I got one half of them done, and I'm just using railroad spikes for the purpose of this project. So now I'm forging in the head. I just finished with the tip. I have no idea what just fell. Something fell. Anyway, now I'm forging in the head of the railroad spike. There we go. Now we should start seeing it go to yellow. Using coal in my forge that was designed to automatically convert wood into charcoal, mainly because now that I've been introduced to the difference of working with coal versus charcoal, I'm not going to have to go through nearly as much fuel. And I'd already cleared it with the folks who had created this forge that it wouldn't be a problem using charcoal in it, and indeed it's not. My wife just made faces at me. You'll see her possibly walk by to go visit the donkey and the goat. Rosie and Lily. Now, one of the things that they always tell you is you'll never get your material any hotter than what the forge is, which makes perfect sense. But it also turns out that steel and coal end up iridescing, I think that's the right word, at about the same color. So you'll never get your steel to a hotter color than what you see in your forge. I think that's right where I need it. Yep, there's the little sparkles that indicate I've made it where I want it. All right. Now for the fun part. Get the tongs in the right way so I'm not dropping anything. So far, nobody's been able to figure out what their favorite beverage is in the last 20 minutes. What the right direction to hit with is to not give myself too much of a challenge. All right, getting too cold to move that much metal with the amount of force I have to offer. So let's get it warmed back up again. I don't even have to mess with it. Full send. Are you a blacksmith hobbyist yourself? Ah, the question I just almost scrolled off my screen. Where do I get coal? That's a good question. I can't tell you where I get my coal here because I haven't gotten any coal here in the Seattle area yet. I'll be figuring that out perhaps end of the year because I have so much at the moment. But I got very fortunate in visiting a friend who helped me do a cross-country trip to bring my father-in-law's things back home here. He had asked me if I'd work with coal, and I'd stated just what I just said now. And he gave a ring to his brother, who I'm also friends with, and asked him to bring over a bag, and he brought over 2 50-pound bags of coal. So I am stocked for a while. All right. Oh, there we go. Go figure out what your favorite beverage is and have a sip. Or shorthand drink. Me, I'm gonna stick with a mineral water here. Bring forward a little bit of that raw coal in the back. Get it to start cooking. Break up the cooked stuff, the coke. For those who aren't familiar with smithing, your best fuel source is something known as coke, not coal. Coal can be cooked, and the stuff that doesn't result in great, high BTUs gets cooked out. You'll see some yellow smoke coming off the back there, maybe. It's hard to tell if you can see it. And once that happens, the process of doing that is almost like the way popcorn works in that it actually becomes bigger, fluffy, very light, sort of like the way pumice is. It also becomes sticky, becomes clumps together in big old clumps of coke. But that's the stuff that actually gets the high BTUs. So what you're seeing as fire in the back is more the coal turning into coke. What I see as fire here in the front, which probably doesn't play as well on the camera, is an indication of the coke turning into high BTUs. And I can also see the color changing up here in the front. You can see that as well. Let me pull you back a little bit, make that more visible. And yes, the plastic is warm to the touch, but it's not at risk of burning. Oh, I didn't mention, it's a webcam sitting on a articulated arm that has a holder for an iPhone, plastic, typical plastic holder. So the fun things I've had to come up with to solve my problems in here, to be able to share everything with you guys well. Okay, come on. There we go. All right, we're going to do this real quick. You can see I was moving in the part where it's fish slipping there. We got to do a bit of straightening out there. So yeah, the good news is with coal and coke is, if I were to walk away from this now, while you see flames right now, all that's really doing is the cooking process. That would stop after a little while, and it would all just go out. It wouldn't continue to burn. And while this forage is meant for charcoal, one of the downsides of charcoal is, if I were to walk away from charcoal that had been cooking, it will burn out. I mean, it'll burn all through all the charcoal. I'll just come back to ash. There we go. All right. Interesting that Full Send's comment hasn't shown up in the stream, in the video yet. So now I'm starting to see how much of a delay there is. There's the nice color I'm looking for. I'll show you another way that one ends up forging in things. It's my least favorite way of doing it. So far you've seen me using the anvil face. Oh, by the way, for those who're not familiar with blacksmithing, you're seeing me basically clear off all these black flakes. That is known as forge scale, and it's basically instant rust. Pops right off due to the heat and the oxygen with the metal. It's just a rapid deterioration of the very surface of the steel. But anyway, you've seen me use the face of the anvil by striking downward on top of the piece. You've seen me use the vise by clamping it in there real well and then striking it. And now I'm going to show you my least favorite way of doing it. And I just find it the least effective, also the most likely to cause myself injury. So, all right, we're not up to a temperature I want to be yet. The fire is, so let's just leave it in there for a little longer. Beautiful cloudless day right now. Well, little clouds here and there. I think that I'm going to be spending some part of the day mowing the yard. I've got 2 acres. I've got trees growing on a good chunk of it for fruits and nuts. I've got chickens growing on the other. Whole bunch of I've got 6 chicks in one coop at this point that hatched just in the last few weeks. And part of this will end up becoming a paddock, bigger paddock for Rosie and Lily. But until then, I got to maintain the grass myself. All right. I'll do the straightening first, because it's the coolest part of the metal. Come up here, do a little straightening there. All right, you can see all the scale popping off the metal. But here's my least favorite way. And at this time I can get away with it because I can actually hook over the edge of the anvil and push it in that way. But oftentimes you'll see smiths here having to use their body hitting in the end, and now they have to control the tong. They have to control, not jamming it into their body too hard and causing themselves harm. So it's my least favorite way of doing it. But right here, it turns out it's useful. All right. We don't have fish slipping there anymore. So now I can continue on. Forging that piece, the part sticking out back into the rest of the body. There we go. Hey, Jared. Getting them up inside? See a big old wall of coke right here. I'm just going to leave it alone. I don't need it yet. Rosie making noise over there? All right, let's take a look at this. Good color. Let's make it go into all right, drink. That worked out really well. Getting close. I think I want to put a little bit of flux on there just in case something folds over that I didn't notice. Get it up to a nice yellow heat. See what I'm doing there. And what that does is it creates a barrier for further scale getting created and helps move any existing scale that's in there off faster. It's one of the rare times where wearing a glove might be a good idea when you're doing forge welding. I'm gonna, but like I said, I hate doing it because then holding on to the hammer can be tricky. I've got, speaking of PPE, obviously I have the apron. I also have a fire-resistant shirt on. In this case, Carhartt's FR shirt. Leather boots. Cotton pants. You don't want to be wearing rubber or polyester. I hope it's good broth. I think I need to get some ramen here soon. Missed out an opportunity to go to a ramen joint in Dublin that I heard was really good. Wouldn't have thought of ramen in Dublin, but now that I'm here, I know I can get good ramen here. I probably turn this crank way faster than I need to. Yep, I'm definitely seeing sparkles. I got it maybe just too hot, but as you can see, forge welding results in all the squirt happening. Didn't drop it. And yes, that is some hot stuff. There's the drop. Didn't have to go to the ground for it, but all right, this is going to be a point where I actually brush it so I can see how we're looking. That's a fairly clean bit of stock now. And I don't see anything that I think will become stress risers. You never really can tell until you start working it. You might take it through another forge welding cycle after a little bit, but I see nothing that folded over and became something that looks like it isn't welded, except maybe right there. So I think that's a pretty decent piece of stock right now. Ready for turning into a blank. I'm gonna go ahead and get it up hot again and forge in this using the, so I don't have that angle there. In the long run, I want to turn that into the ball end. So having a big angle, having this much of an angle is not bad, but I need it to go back the other way as well. So let's see how I do that. We're seeing that it's easier now, temperature-wise, to get it to sparkly spots. All right, let's see if I can do that bit of fun I was talking about where I put my body at risk here. There we go. You can see it's now pushed more central. Let's get it on the corners for a change. Nope. All right, I think this is where I'm going to use the vise. Actually, I can do this for a little bit. Yep. That did the trick. Now you can see it's more snub. Knock off the corners there. And now it's ready for me to start working at rounding. But I'm going to leave that to later. All right. Switch back to the other side. Let's get ready to create a nib. Let's see how hot that got. Pretty close to where I want to start. That's a, you know, I have to give you two parts to that answer. The first part is, here in the Pacific Northwest, I am absolutely certain there's ready sources of coal, as this used to be coal country. We've shifted away from that, but I don't expect that there would be any problem finding coal. However, I've not gone looking for it yet, because up until recently, I was smithing with charcoal, lump charcoal, hardwood. This stuff you can pick up anytime you want to have a good smoky flavor in your barbecue pit. And the other thing I was smithing with was just wood. In other words, this forge is built with the express purposes of taking wood of about 1 by 2 or 2 by 2 with a length of about 6 inches, 7 inches, and stacking it up the side of it there, the angle that it has, and the lower stuff as it cooks into charcoal, it starts crumbling and becomes the actual fuel. And then the stuff up higher up also starts cooking as it starts getting closer and closer to the heat. And so that's the brilliance of this forge, that and the fact that it has a dilatware, so you can have a very short fire like I've got here, or a very long fire all the way to the back of the forge. Which, let me just give you a shot down the pipe here. It's a pretty long forge. You can dial anywhere between 1 to 10. But then I went to um, visit with and take a cross-country trip with a buddy of mine who was one of the two that got me into blacksmithing. And he asked me if I'd used coal, and I told him I had not. And he asked me if my forge could do it, and I said it could. I just didn't know where to get coal yet. And you know, I have a ready supply of wood at the moment. And he just gave a ring to his buddy, since we were going to be traveling with a truck and a trailer, not his buddy, his brother, and asked him to drop off a bag of coal. He ended up dropping off 2 50-pound bags of coal. So I'm sitting here with what appears to be, based on my current burn rate, a year's worth of coal. But you know, if I'm smart, well before year's end, I'll have an answer to that question. Stay tuned. If it's really something you need to know in the area, you know, I'll be happy to do the research faster. But at the moment, I don't have any need to go and find coal at the moment. So. Oh, and just so you know, my buddy's down in South Florida. So if you're not at my end of the country, but down near his end of the country, let me know and I'll find out from there. But typically, one of the things I can say is, if anywhere you are in the country, you're challenged for finding coal, the best way to figure out where coal might be is probably just to reach out to your Abana group. You know, Abana is the Artistic Blacksmiths Association of North America, and then there are local chapters as well. For example, I've got, what is it? I'm a member of it too. It's just slipping my mind at the moment. The PNWA, I think it is, the Pacific Northwest Blacksmith Association. I could be getting that completely wrong though, so it'll probably just jump into my head in a minute, and I'll correct myself. But yeah, it's archaic for sure. Blacksmithing in itself is an archaic form. Today, modern blacksmithing is done using electric coils, induction coils, or you know, gas furnaces mostly. You know, propane gas furnaces. But even that isn't great for the environment, right? So this is not something to be done for production purposes, you know, mass production purposes. It is strictly for the enjoyment, and you can actually make a good living at the artistic, you know, endeavor of blacksmithing. You know, there are plenty of folks out there are making money at it, although they'll typically use propane for the purpose. I do have a propane forge over here, but I have to. It's a two burner forge, but I need to replace the burners. Yeah, exactly. The blacksmith gatherings are often a good place to pick up more coal, or so I've heard from Trail Dust and others. There's a great set called iForge Iron, I think it is, .net, and you can connect with a whole community of blacksmiths. They'd be happy to get you in touch with any aspect of blacksmithing, whether it's finding the right fuel for your need, getting started with a forge, understanding what a J-bod is, which is just a box of dirt. Yeah, the farriers. Yeah, exactly. Farriers are extremely talented smiths. You got to realize they're a bit of a high precision situation, considering they're literally creating shoes custom fit for a horse. So I've got a lot of respect for farriers, and they make a good living. I mean, we still have you know, speaking of antiquated, come on, why in the world do we have horses? Mainly because we love them. So there's not a good Their usefulness as the tool they once were no longer exist, and yet we still have them. So the same as with blacksmithing using antiquated methods. Absolutely, there are beginners blacksmith areas. There's challenge groups. There's every level. There's groups that are specifically for knife making. I don't particularly do the knife making stuff mainly because I like blacksmithing. I don't like standing at a grinder too much, and Forged in Fire doesn't show you that aspect of it too much. I have a great respect for the folks who've got the steadiness of hand and so forth that can do that, but that's just not where I want my talents to be. Oh, very cool. I did not know horses were used for that. Well, I mean, as mounts for the purpose, sure. Is that what you mean by search and rescue? As far as farriers, though, they are most likely using propane forges. I don't know that any still walk around with a rivet forge style of apparatus. All right, let's see here. First, I want to take it down this way just a little bit because I know what's going to happen as soon as I start. There we go. And then I think that's enough. Whoop, drink. And I was wrong, not nearly long enough. All right, I'll take off another bite here in a minute. This is the problem of eyeballing the first tong blank instead of actually deciding what the measurements should be. Really? I didn't know horses had that skill. Let's learn something new every day. Are we identifying old boxes and getting rid of them, Jared?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah, sounds like I got a hen laying an egg. Have fun. Stay safe. All right. Let's see if I can. Yeah, that's what I was afraid would happen, but we'll fix that in a minute. That'll do the trick. Putting a little bit of flux on there because there's a folded over lip right there. We'll see if we can get it blend in. Otherwise, I'll end up having to take a file to it, clean up the rag that's going to cause, so I don't end up creating a stress riser where it'll just break off one day. Take care, Dust. I'm about done with the stream anyway. I've got about, oh, actually I am at the end of the stream. I want to actually thank everybody who stopped in. This was a really well attended stream. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this forge welded and then call it done for the day. Normally I would stop right at 11, but as I just started this one little thing here, I shouldn't walk away from that aspect without seeing that what work I have to do next time. I'll say, as I do at the end of every one of my live streams, I'm really happy to have had you join me around my fire. I want you to know you're always welcome around my fire. There's only one rule I have for my fire, and that is everybody's welcome and mutual respect needs to be shown. And so far, I've not been disappointed by my audience. Starting to see the signs of sparks that indicate I should pull it out and give her some tappity tap taps. That is, if I haven't burned it up yet. And there it is. If that isn't welded, it's not going to be. It looks good to me. So we're going to go with it. Maybe a little bit longer than I want it to be now, but I don't feel like it's a lost hope yet. We'll call that done for the stream. Well, folks, thanks for stopping in. Hope to see you again next time, which should be next week. Love and light.